It is 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan for Manitoba, this 9th day of January 2024 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Burick, Blosha, Kushniryk, McGregor, Neely, and Zbirun. Our interim CIO, Pat Ellingson, is here. Our videographer, Jeremy Bergen, is with us tonight as well. We will dive into the agenda at number 2 tonight. Be it resolved, the agenda for the regular meeting of Council held this 9th day of January 2024 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Burick. Is there any additions, changes to the agenda tonight, or are we good with what we see before us? Looks like everybody's happy, so we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Head to number 3, adopting the minutes. Copy of the minutes is attached to the agenda. This is the December 19th meeting. Be resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on December 19th, 2023 be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely and Councillor Kushniryk had their hands up. Does anyone see anything wrong with the minutes? We're looking for errors, omissions, changes. I took a brief trip through them. They looked pretty good, but Councillor Blosha is usually the best at spotting errors.
I looked through them. I didn't see it, but I could miss something too. You never know.
Anybody else want more time with them? We'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Let's move to number 4, Public Works Report. Copy of the report is attached to the agenda. I'll read through it here as well for those watching on video. This is the report from earlier today. Now, we do have a transportation meeting on Thursday morning, remember, but we wanted a report tonight just to have something. Unit 205, that is the new garbage truck, has had its safety completed. It's licensed, working great. They did garbage with it. They did the commercial garbage Friday, and they did the regular residential garbage Monday. So typically on a Monday, it takes 3 trips to the landfill to do garbage. This particular truck did it in 1 trip and wasn't full yet. So the compacting works, plus it holds more. They say it was compacting really well. It just squishes are flat.
The truck is in good shape, I guess.
There's rust on it right at the wheel wells. There's a little bit of rust, just the paint is off. But otherwise, it looks like it's mint. It was shedded the entire time in a heated shed. So it's never seen snow until now. So it's good. Brushing is almost complete in the south. We'll be in Benito near the end of the week. Both machines working in the same vicinity. The skid steer tackles the smaller stuff. The excavator does the big stuff. From what I understand, that's been speeding it up quite a bit because they can go great guns, which is nice.
Well, I don't want to backtrack.
No. Snow blower for the skid steer is expected to be delivered by the end of the week, which is pretty good timing, unless, of course, they can't get here for all the snow that's about to fall. But
I'll get there with snow too deep.
we haven't needed the snow blower yet, so that's good. Unit 54, that's Chris's grader, is getting picked up Thursday. There's a recall. It's covered by warranty on the differential. They're bringing us a loaner grader to use in the meantime. And again, that Thursday could move a little bit with the storm, but that's the current plan, is they're going to come out Thursday and swap machines, and then they'll bring it back in a couple of weeks when it's done.
We'll be able to put our plow on this loaner machine.
I will see how that goes. Worst case scenario, we have the cap we can go to and use it if we have to, but I'm hoping they have some plan for this. Unit 47, the T800 Kenworth semi. You'll recall that they got a few feet the one day and then it stopped. So what they've found is a chunk of cylinder sleeve cracked and broke off, jamming against the connecting rod, bending the connecting rod, jamming against the engine block. They say there's extensive damage, so they're trying to determine if it might be better to find a used engine for it than it is to try repairing that one. So they're looking for some pricing to give some guidance for what we should consider doing next, if it's fix the engine or if it's find a truck.
Well, this, you gotta start from scratch here. I mean, you start at the bottom, work your way up. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and the hourly rates and all for
I know,
doing
it's
stuff.
may not be worth it. But well, before anything happens, pricing's going to come back. So we just have some idea of what a used engine would be and some idea of installing it. I think the only reason they were kind of going down that path was all the work we did on the truck in the last year, because we fixed everything else that was broken. But maybe there'll be good parts for the next one if we find one similar. A few more repairs being done to Unit 38. That's the 2013 pickup truck. It had, I think we saw a meeting or two ago, that extensive list of problems. So rather than it going to a service location, our staff have been doing it. So we've been working through that.
What do we use that truck for now?
Benito hasn't.
Oh, this
Use
is for
it.
the town employees in Benito.
Yeah.
They go to the water plant with it, and wherever they're going to, they use it. It had the sander on it, but the sander's been moved to the 3-ton.
Oh.
So it's front mount on the 3-ton right now, which seems to be working really good.
I think we're actually using it. Chad and those guys are running out to the scrubbers
Mm.
right now.
Okay, good. It's nice that you know what goes on. A few more repairs to Unit 53, the tandem dump truck. So I'll try and get everything ready for spring. Any questions or comments on the Public Works report tonight?
They were using that tandem for hauling the skid steer or steer around, okay? And then they moved back. Now they're using that other truck, you said?
No. The 38, they're just driving to and from, right? We need the tandem. Nothing else can pull the skid steer right now.
Okay.
Yeah, you need
The heaviest. We need something heavy enough for it.
Yeah.
well, it depends what trailer you got it on now. See, we're using the Pinto Hit trailer, right? For
Yep.
a heavy duty trailer, so it's overkill, but whatever.
Yeah, our other one that we have would be too light.
Yeah,
I think it's
we need something in
14,000.
the middle.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like going shopping. I remember how well we did last time we were at trailer shopping.
Tri-axle, 7,000 pound axles, perfect.
Anything else in the Public Works report? It's in the agenda later, I'll remind you then again, but we have transportation on Thursday. I had a good long chat with Scott one day about how to best get everything we need done into Scotland. So Scott prioritizes and makes a list and gets it all done this summer. So one of the things we talked about is we want to have written lists for Thursday. And so, like, if they were here on Wednesday, we could photocopy them and have them all ready, or if you come a few minutes early Thursday, just so we can make copies and spread them around. And then we're going to get Scott all the written stuff, because he's having trouble at the last transportation meeting keeping up with everything verbally, because he can't get it written down quick enough before we go on to the next thing.
Oh, Brian and I didn't have that money.
No, it wasn't you. It was me and Councillor Zbirun. We were the ones that caused the trouble. Yeah. So, just keep in mind, and everyone's welcome, of course. 10 o'clock Thursday, right?
Right.
Yes, 10 o'clock Thursday is the meeting. With nothing else for Public Works, we'll go on to General Business 5.1. So I'm not suggesting there won't be discussion here, but went into general business because it's a bylaw, so it just seemed a good spot for it. So we have second reading of the bylaw that we proposed. You'll note the number has changed because the number was wrong last time. It should have been 105, but it was 104. Be it resolved that bylaw 010523, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West regarding the remuneration of the members of council, shall be read a second time this 9th day of January 2024. Is the remover Councillor Neely, and a seconder, Councillor Blosha. As we talked last time, there was that one sentence in there, the English wasn't good, so that has been corrected. Otherwise, this remains as is. But I did get a couple notes from a couple members of council in the last few days wanting to have some discussion on the amount of payments in here. So who would like to kick us off on discussing if we want to change the actual dollar values in this bylaw?
To change what?
The dollar values for what councillors get paid.
Oh,
I had a couple people send notes that there was some interest in discussing that before we passed it.
I just have one question. We discussed the mileage rate, the CRA maximum or whatever. So is that what we're supposed to use now? I'm trying to find it here.
It's not in here as an amount because the CRA changes every year. Right now it's 68 cents.
Okay.
Until something, the new one will come out here, but it's probably not going to change because gas hasn't really changed much.
Yeah. So that's okay.
Yep.
That's all I have to ask.
Councillor Burick, any thoughts on your part?
I had discussed it with you already that I'd like to see a comparison of other municipalities in Manitoba. Like at one time, Swan River was the second biggest municipality in Manitoba. Portage Prairie was the biggest. But I think you said now it's changed.
Right now we're 33rd by population, 12th by area.
And how many are there in total?
137?
But no, I'd like to see a comparison before we do. If we do a second reading now, the third one will be done next meeting, or do we have to do the third one tonight?
Totally our choice. It's on the agenda for tonight, but it doesn't have to be finished tonight.
Yeah, like I'd like to compare and then see where we sit.
I did peek through a few. I didn't peek through every one of the 136, I have to admit. I looked at Roblin, Dauphin, Portage, Gimli. I like Gimli the best because the head of council there gets $35,000 a year. And I was just thinking, shouldn't we match Gimli?
Well, they got one councillor.
We are in the ballpark for some. Like there seems to be two differences. There's a bunch of them are in that $30,000 for head of council, deputy head of council in the $25,000 range, councillors in the $20,000 range, and then there's another batch that's more where we are, where it's more that we're 805 for a councillor, 1125 for head of council. So there's some there. And then there's like this no man's land gap, and then there's the rest of them are up there. So it's really two different things. Certainly when Gimli changed theirs a year and a half or so, they made news all over the province. They got TV interviews because they went from where we are to where that other group is, and they certainly got attention for it. Yeah. The mayor got to be on several TV news programs explaining why he thought he should have that kind of money. So I don't know. Minnetonka's is $24 an hour. We're 23, so we're similar to our immediate neighbor. The town of Swan is hard to calculate because they do theirs so differently, and they've been making massive changes to theirs in the last year of how it
They have
works.
basic rate, don't they? A big basic rate, but all the meetings are included in that basic.
Well, they had a fairly small basic rate and all the meetings were included. Now it's a bigger base rate and not all the meetings are included. So they're more to where we are. But theirs is several pages long, and so there's lists of, there's this type of meeting and there's that type of meeting. So if you go to an A-list meeting, you're allowed this many of those hours, and then B-list meetings, you're allowed a certain number of hours, and it's confusing, to say the least. These were last adjusted, if you recall, last term, 2018 was the last year that the CRA made some of the income for council tax exempt. After that, all the income was taxable. So these numbers were adjusted at that point on the basis of making it be about what it was before. So it took what it was, took that portion of it tax exempt, figured out what the tax was on it, added that to it. So these particular amounts haven't been indexed to inflation or anything. They're probably 8 to 10 years old now and have never been changed. So, I'm not jumping up and saying 35,000, although if you all vote for it, I'm okay with it. But, there would be an argument. Nothing else in the world has not changed in 8 or 10 years. So, could you look at a small increase? Sure, you could. I don't know where you want to go. The best guidance I can give you from everybody else was there's no consistency. It's all over the board. There's lows and highs, and really we have to look, I think, to ourselves. What do we do? How much work do we put into it? What is it worth to have us here? And the second part is, what does it take to make sure we have a good pool of candidates at election time? Because the last thing we want is to have 5 people on a 7-person council and be begging for 2 more because everybody says, I don't want to do that, it's not worth my time. So there's the 2 parts of it. What is it actually worth to do? But also, what does it take to attract enough people that we get good candidates running in the elections? So I don't know what your thoughts are.
I know we looked this up years ago, remember? We did this many years, but sometimes you maybe shouldn't be looking because you might have to lower your wage. No, that's what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like you say, we're sort of in the middle of it here.
We're lower than a lot, but there's a split there. There's high ones, and then there's a batch around where we are. So there just doesn't seem to be any in the middle much, at least not the ones I ran across. They were all pretty, and it's more when you get down south. And they're not necessarily even bigger municipalities. They've got some more people, some of them.
More populated.
But you get into Gimli is twice our size roughly. They're at 35 for head of council. But you get into Rockwood, all the little ones down there, they're all running that 30, 35. One of them's running almost 50. When you get into that.
For the Reeve or the mayor.
Yeah, and then the rest are stepped down, but they're not stepped down a lot. It's not like councillors are getting 30,000 less than that. They're in that $20,000-$30,000 range in some of those municipalities.
Is the assessment much different?
I imagine there is more assessment there.
So we can figure out if we need like if Reeve was getting 35,000, it'd be like 80% of his wages would be the councillor, or what percentage would it be?
Again, they're all different, but,
Whatever we decide,
yeah.
we can decide whatever, Byron.
Well, yeah, within certain limits.
If you go too high, you better go all the way high, because we won't be here in a couple of years. We'll bank it all out.
But it'd be the same idea as we are now. If you look at us right now, we're 1125, 835, 805.
Yeah.
So you just figure it out.
And what, you know, when you look holistically, what we're trying to do here, the goal is that base amount, not only for the 2 meetings, but we all know there's a bunch of stuff that happens. People call you, they see you at the grocery store, they drop by for 5 minutes, and historically, we've never billed for that. We don't get on our thing and say, well, I was on the phone for 10 minutes. It's just part of it, right? So that base amount kind of covers all of that stuff, whereas the hourly covers the specific, okay, I gave up this evening to go to a meeting, so I got paid for it.
That's always been
I
fair.
think it-
I think it's fair. I do too.
When you get into those ones that are really high, there is no other. It's all inclusive. Like when you're at $35,000, you don't also get meetings. It's just $35,000 flat rate, and away you go. So it's not necessarily, it sounds high, but not necessarily. Because if you go to AMM twice, you know, you're 6 days at AMMs, pretty soon there's a couple months there where you're a lot higher than normal. Any sort
I
of,
sort of like it the way it is personally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the dollar amounts that could be adjusted a little bit maybe, but I mean, I sort of like the way it is rather than.
I like the format, like how it, you know, how we do it.
Yeah.
The only question is if we need to change those dollar amounts. I think. I don't want to start rewriting the bylaw from scratch. So ideally, if we change anything, just the dollar amounts.
Well, we got the mileage pretty well set.
Well, I think the mileage makes more sense now than it has for a long time, because we've always been doing mileage by updating, changing. The rule is so simple because the mileage needs to be this number anyway, so why not just say it is that number and away we go. So does anyone want to propose changes to the dollar amounts?
So are we talking about the
Hourly rate.
just the hourly rate?
The hourly or the base, or both?
Base rate.
The mileage is set, but that needs to be the CRA
Mileage is
amount.
set.
Yeah, yeah.
But the other two, if you want to make changes to it, you know, it's as easy as a stroke of a pen and voting on it. But you need to decide what you want to do, because ideally, I don't really want us to come back to this bylaw 6 months from now. You know, we should have the goal that we're setting this, and this takes us through the election into the next council, and they can worry about what the bylaw says then if they want to make changes.
So this is gonna be for 4 years, 3 more years.
We can change it anytime we want, but boy, we've got a lot of other stuff to do besides come back to this.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to settle it and be done with it and move on.
So we can have a reading tonight and then think
We
about
can-
it and,
If you want, yeah, we
And
can do
then
second
come
reading
back
tonight and then,
Next meeting.
yeah, and then
That'll be
come
final
back and,
okay,
because I didn't know nothing about this, about, you know, something to think about, eh?
yeah. Does anyone have time to commit to doing a little survey? Pat and I don't have that time. But is anybody else interested in surveying through a few places and maybe sharing with the group what you find?
Carrie's retired.
No, I actually find it quite fair, so I'm okay with it. I find it fair.
Okay. So I think our agreement is we'll do second reading tonight, which is what we're doing right now, so we'll pass this. We will table third reading. We'll come back to it in 2 weeks' time. And then if anyone does have time to do some research and you find some stuff, please share it for the ones that don't get time. And if no one gets time, whatever you guys want to do.
But it could get awful confusing because, like you said, they get this much a month, but then this is all included, or this isn't included, or, you know.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we did this before, and we were more confused than we were done than before we started.
Okay, let's do that, let's have a reading and then we'll do it again.
Worst case scenario, next time we can just vote on raising it by $100 and be done with it.
Yeah.
Meet everybody in the middle. Okay, anything else on it tonight? So this is still just second reading. This doesn't complete the bylaw, so it's not a recorded vote. We'll look for those in favor. Those, did you vote, Councillor Burick?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see there. Okay, that is carried. Third reading is 5.2 on the agenda. We're going to mark that as tabled. And we will come to it. A reminder that when we do third reading, it is a mandatory recorded vote that night. 5.3, subdivision. Whereas the owners of Northeast 16-35-28 West have made application to subdivide their property and require conditional approval from the Municipality of Swan Valley West as per community planning. And whereas the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West has reviewed said application, along with a letter from Municipal Relations dated December 19th, 2023, and have no objection to the aforementioned subdivision, therefore be it resolved that we do hereby approve the subdivision of the above noted property, provided that all conditions and requirements are met as included with the letter from Municipal Relations. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha.
Put their hand up, I think they're in the board.
Councillor Kushniryk. A copy of the subdivision is attached to the agenda tonight if anyone's particularly interested, and I'm sure some of you took a chance to look at it before. There wasn't anything particularly interesting in there, just the tax conditions and such that are always there. It looks like they are proposing dividing a lot off of a bigger property, and the lot's already there, it's already got buildings on it, so certainly it makes a lot of sense.
Nobody else has got a problem with it.
No, it seems
No
to be,
government agencies.
seems good. Any other discussion on this? Not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 5.4, Swan Valley Fire Department. We have a resolution for them, whereas the Swan Valley Fire Board Inc. is beginning operations and requires an amount of money to be paid as soon as possible to meet obligations. Be it resolved that Council provide a $50,000 advance to the Fire Board prior to receiving an invoice. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Kushniryk. Anyone to second the resolution? Councillor Burick. So a couple things at play here. The Fire Board began operations late October, early November, but the town of Swan River finished out the 2023 year because they'd already been doing the accounting and such. So that's all being sorted out. But as of the 1st of January, the Fire Board operates on its own. The complication is that when incorporation was happening, COVID is still providing delays for the company's office. So instead of incorporation taking a couple days like it should have, they're still not done. So the corporate documents haven't come back yet. They're expected this week. Without them, they can't open a bank account. So there isn't even a bank account to deposit the check into until hopefully Friday. But payroll is due on Thursday for the fire chief. So to get around that, I wrote the fire chief a check for his paid. And we'll just run that through for now so that he has money, because we can't leave him without money. And once the fire board's actually got the bank account, at the next fire board meeting, they will have to deal with paying me back for his wages. But at least he gets paid on time, so we don't have the fire board default on their very first payment that was ever due. And hopefully this all gets done. From what I understand, the town is also advancing money to the fire board. And then once the budget is passed, it'll come back here. There'll be some specific plan. We know it'll be more than $50,000. This won't overpay them. This will just be a question of what it is after that to go with it.
We don't know what our share is gonna be a year.
Not yet. Budget isn't passed yet. Moment it's passed, then we'll know our share. But the budget's looking fairly similar to last year, so it should be about the same. There isn't a lot of change there, but it isn't actually passed yet. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 5.5. This is a housekeeping resolution we do every year around this time. Be it resolved that in accordance with subsection 365(2) of the Municipal Act, the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West does hereby declare 2023 the designated tax year and require all properties in arrears for the year 2022 and prior, including penalties and interest, to be sold at tax sale. Be it further resolved that tax service shall be retained to manage the tax sale process. Is there a mover? Councillor Zbirun, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor McGregor. So what happens here, and you folks probably remember this from a year ago, we must designate what year you have to pay your taxes for. It cannot be this year. So as soon as it becomes 2024, we can designate 2023, which means you must have finished paying for 2022. your 2023 taxes can be outstanding, that's fine, but if you still owe for 2022, in a couple weeks' time, we'll be sending a list of properties over to begin the tax sale process.
These people are all warned.
They received warning letters in December, I believe,
Yes.
reminding them. And technically speaking, they had till the end of December to pay, but if they show up tomorrow morning, that's fine. Until we send that list over, we'll take their money and take them off the list. Once the list goes over, within a day or so, they each incur a $350, or is it $500 now?
I think it's just 350.
$350 penalty, basically.
It goes up.
And then everything's gonna be paid right up, isn't
No,
Just
still only
this-
has to be paid to the end of 22.
it? Oh.
Yeah. But when they get they'll get a warning letter from tax service, a second one, that letter costs $350. And then if they get the next one, it's more. And then once the sale begins, it's yet more. So it's certainly worth it. We can, as a council, as you'll recall, take people out of tax sale to make arrangements with us. So if by chance, someone came to you as a councillor and said, gee, I had this problem, I just can't quite pay the last of 2022, you or them send them to us. They can talk to Pat and we can make arrangements. Say they owe $200 or something. We can get them to pay $25 a month. Some plans, so they don't go to tax sale and don't have all those penalties. Because sometimes we send it to tax sale. Well, I know, we've sent one to tax sale for $300 or $400 and they incur a $350 penalty. Like it doesn't make sense, right? If we can help the people any way we can, we will. But if they don't show up and they don't talk to us, we end up just sending it off there and hoping for the best. Any further discussion on this? Not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We're heading to item 6.1, General Cheques. There was a small change to this resolution. If you read it earlier in the day, the check numbers changed, the amount changed, just because there was a little oops there. List of the checks is there. We'll start with the resolution. Be resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 19416 to 19467, in the amount of $1,193,390.86. Is there someone to move the resolution?
$1 million, I'm going for it.
Good job. It's not payable to you, though. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. List of checks are there. I have the more recent checks here. I don't have the school division one because it was due, so it's gone over there already. And we don't get a choice on if we pay them or not.
I have one question here.
Okay?
19423, it's close to the start of it.
I had that one on my list too.
What is that?
Let's go find it.
19423, Province of Manitoba.
So that is the education property tax for,
Oh,
remember on your taxes it shows the local and then there's this little provincial fee? That's them collecting the
well, this
provincial
is
fee
sort of
part.
part of the school taxes.
That's part of school,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then the school division, that's the final payment for their actual school taxes. We start again come September-ish. Whenever we've collected taxes, we owe them more money. I think September, right?
October.
Oh,
after
October.
After our tax
better.
due date.
So,
Yeah.
when is it gonna happen that we don't have to do this anymore?
The school taxes?
Isn't that their plan down the road, or is that changed now because the government's changing?
Mr. Canoe has said that they're going to not mail out checks this year. They're going to put the credits on the tax bills. So the theory would be that we'll owe the school division a lot less money because we'll be collecting a lot less, but we'll still be collecting some. And I don't know.
I thought they were
I thought
gonna
this was the-
eliminate this
Yeah.
school tax thing altogether originally, I think. Was that not the plan?
Did you believe a politician when they said
No,
something?
but, so they
Well, they
started,
said they were doing
gonna
it in
phase-
increments, yeah, we
They were gonna
believed it.
phase it in
They were.
over so many years.
And for whatever reason, and I don't know why, I have some guesses, they decided to mail out checks. So you pay us the money, we send it to them, they send you a check back for it.
Yeah.
But I think that, I can understand as a politician why I might want my name on a check going to every person in the province of Manitoba.
Yeah,
I get that.
yeah, looking good.
Yeah, it cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a postage extra. But I understand.
So
what
now
they did.
it'll just not, it'll show as a credit on our tax bill.
It will, but there'll still be some school taxes owing, because it doesn't sound like, unless, the budget's not out, but it doesn't sound like those amounts are changing. It's gonna stay right where it was, but the credits will be on the bill.
I thought, maybe I was wrong, but I thought originally they were gonna eliminate the school taxes.
That was the
off
promise.
property taxes totally.
The good news about them changing how those bills work is we're going to look like saints. because people rarely can look at anything other than the bottom line on the tax
Yeah,
bill,
yeah.
and they blame us for all of it, even though half of it probably
Well, you
isn't
divide
us.
it by 2, and that's your
Yeah.
actual property taxes, more or less.
So this time, you know, those credits will come off, that final number will be a lot lower.
Yeah.
And I know there'll be people say, oh, thanks for lowering taxes, and we'll say, you're welcome. Councillor Blosha.
I think I know too, but I just wondered, 19431, that municipal mentors, the tax preparation.
Oh,
Can you
that's
just
for the
explain that
supplement.
one?
That was for them coming and doing the supplementary tax.
Yeah, I just wanted more.
Is that that lady that sent us a quote?
Yes, so she's the former CAO from Roblin. And if you remember Wendy Wolf that used to work for the province, the two of them together have a consulting company now. So
So
they're,
it's done now?
it's done both.
Okay, that's,
So, and when we went to do it, we found out there was more undone. So there's a bunch of 2022s that hadn't been done, so they're done, the 23s are done. And later in the agenda, there's a list of all those changes.
okay.
Yeah,
So
I
I
see what
was
happened.
on that too. Multi-thousand, $100,000 question.
Any other questions on the general checks tonight?
Was there a check to Cook Brothers, or it's done?
Didn't you?
I don't see anything
I
on there.
believe it's done.
It's done?
Yep.
Okay.
I will note that in these checks, if you were to go through all of the checks and all of those invoices, you will find there's some discrepancies in the dates right now. So when these were processed, Munisoft was throwing a little fit about backdating things into December. So technically speaking, there's a few invoices like a phone bill, there's a hydro bill that are December invoices that should be paid on December 31st. Currently they're showing January of this year. So the folks in the office are going to work on fixing that to get them into that right budget, because it would otherwise we'd have only 11 months of phone and hydro, or we should have 12 months in last year.
We'll have 11 months, 1 year, 13.
Right, so it would skew everything a little bit. If it can't be fixed, it's not the end of the world, but it probably can be, so they're gonna attempt to fix it up and make it show in the right places. Anything else? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That too is carried. Payroll check 6-2, be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 273 to 287, the amount of $21,000 and some dollars. Just go see for a second how much it really is. Any idea? Is it 2 sevens? Should be only 1 7?
Yes.
Okay. So we go with 21,100.
775.
Oh, 7 7. There we go. $21,775.86. Is there someone to move the resolution? Oh, well, good job. We'll go with Neely and Blosha.
Everybody.
Yeah, you guys are excited tonight. A copy of these payroll checks are attached. This is to the end of December. So you can look at the second column on there, shows year to date. So if you want to see what is happening yearly, there's a picture of the whole year on this particular sheet for you. Is there any questions on any of these? Hearing none, we'll call the question of the resolution. Those in favor? That is carried. So this is 6-3, but really we're getting into some discussion items. So we're going to budget 2024 capital planning. So there's a document attached to it. I'll run through it quickly, and then what we're really looking for here is a bunch of input from council. We are required each year to have a 5-year capital plan. Last year we kind of just adopted what was there. We didn't make a lot of changes to it, but we have more time this year. We're intending to get budgeted and done on time, so we need to take a more holistic look at what are we doing in the next 5 years. And part of that, of course, is what are we doing this year. So tonight I've got the information on all the graders here. Right now we have 5 graders. We have a 2019 Cat 140, that's the spare grader that's normally not driven. It has 4,683 hours on it. We have a 2020 JD870 GP, that's the one Chris normally drives. It's at 3,317 hours. A 2018, well, it should be JD, but it's not what it says, 772 GP, that's Ralph. It's at 6,820 hours. That's the one that we bought last year. The 2014 JD870G is at 10,650. That's the one we replaced the transmission on last year. And then we have the 2017 Cat 160M that Paul drives. It's at 8926 for hours. So part of the question here is, what are we doing with graders? Don't expect you to have a full answer yet, but there's the hour counts we're at. The one with 10,000 hours, it's the longest in the tooth, has had a bunch of maintenance, so it's probably going to go for a while again. Estimates on graders, these are just rough numbers. A new unit is 650 plus these days. I was looking at different used ones that are available. So one with 5,000 hours on it's running about 300,000. One with 10,000 hours is running about 250,000. So obviously, if you're looking used, that 5,000 hours is a bit of a sweet spot because you're not saving a lot of money to get a much, much older machine.
$50,000,
Yeah,
you get an extra 5,000 hours.
absolutely. So we need to look at, I don't know if we're buying grader this year. I don't think we are, but maybe you guys think we are. But we need to know when in the next 5 years do we think we're buying graders? Because we need to put that in there as what's the plan for when we're adding some, replacing some, that sort of thing. Vehicles I had listed here, we've got that lead hand truck. It was new last year. Semi's out of service right now. It says we hear repairs 30,000, but we need to firm that up if we're buying a new semi or not, or if we're fixing that one. Unit 38 here it's listed as not worth repair. Now they did do some work on it. They've been limping it along, but if we're looking at a new truck this year, we're at 55,000 range. Councillor Neely.
Which is 38, which unit?
Is that the white one that had no oil in it?
That's
That's-
Bobbitt's old truck. That's the white one. 2013, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
the Dodge half ton. Okay.
3/4 ton. Is the 38 the 3/4 ton or is 38 the little half ton?
3/4 ton. That should be 1 ton.
Oh,
Is
okay.
out of service.
Okay.
Which one's that?
The dually, the white 2008 dually.
Oh, the dually truck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's waiting for auction sale in the spring to go
Oh,
away. We don't have a replacement plan for it, but we need to figure if it needs to be replaced and what we're going to do.
that's what we need to pull that skid steer around with a trailer
Hmm.
that's capable of handling it.
Yeah.
11,000 pound machine.
Other equipment, we bought a packer last year. There's some discussion whether we want another one or not. Has to be decided. Speed signs, we have the one in Benito. If we want more of them, we talked at one time about getting a portable one. I know there's been some interest in a second one in Benito. We need to decide if we're doing anything, and not necessarily for this year, but we could always say next year or the year after, because that plan's supposed to have a pretty good roadmap of what we want to do in the next 5 years. So we get some chance to think about that some more. And then also, we didn't do any last year, technically, I guess, except Sarah Lake Road. But as far as roads, we can certainly do some capital work on roads if there's an appetite for that. Whether we pick a couple bad miles and build up a couple inches of gravel. And we have the packer now, we can go there, we can put gravel and pack and build up. There's all sorts of things we could do. The question is, what do we want to do? Councillor Zbirun.
Or we're gonna be doing maybe something with that rubber
Aggregate.
yeah. So,
Does
there's something keeping
Yeah.
it back from mine too, eh?
And it probably wouldn't be done this year. It might be by fall
Yeah.
at the earliest, but certainly for next year, we could be looking at some capital projects to use it.
Wasn't that around Thunder Hill or something?
I can't remember.
There's a couple spots in Thunder Hill were
Yeah.
really bad this last spring.
This is supposed to work on soft spots, you
Yeah.
said last time, the last
Yeah,
meeting.
frost boils is what it's best for. So there was a couple really bad ones. We put some big rock in them in the spring, but if they come back again, then it's time to think about.
If there's mud coming up, you gotta use geotextile, that's the only way to fix it. really.
Yeah.
Maybe this stuff works, I don't know.
It's supposed to. We're supposed to be able to put this instead, I think.
Other than that, like if you don't use geo, you just pound her down, the mud squeezes up again, and you're back to square one.
So yes, and I know some of you really want to next meeting to think about this, and absolutely, but any thoughts tonight on what we want to do? We need to firm it up in the next few weeks, so we start getting that list
For this road work.
for road work, but for everything. Because I'm hoping Lois is here now, she's doing her thing. I'm not saying she'll be caught up in a week, but she's gonna have room in her head for some budgeting in a couple weeks' time. And, we should be done budgeting by March if we can. So if we could firm the capital stuff up, a lot of the budget answers itself, right? There's a bunch of things that don't really change. And there's 5 or 10 items we have to have a good discussion on, and the capital. So if we could start firming up capital in the next few weeks' time, we'd be in a good spot for them to spend an evening discussing the budget, the rest of it, like the operating part. Then we can combine it all together, and we'll be really close to having our budget done.
This 2014 John Deere 870. How much did we spend on that transmission? Remember, 50,000?
65?
60.
It was
Ish.
close to 70 by the time it was done, yeah.
Yeah, because we had a little bit
brake.
more trouble after with the brakes.
It's hard to trade it off now.
It's all fixed. I don't know how much it would be worth. I've talked to a bunch of people about graders, and some of them are of the opinion that we should never be keeping them longer than 5,000 hours. Buy a new one, get rid of it 5, because that's when the best value
Maybe
is.
in Gimli.
The next person is like, why would you ever get rid of it till it's dead? Run it to 15 or 20,000. When it dies and won't do anything anymore, sell it for scrap. Buy another one.
So if
So
I look at
Yeah, there's two different.
if I look at these numbers, I'm going to add a third opinion. Take all the graders out. We don't know the history of them or anything else. But when I look at this just on the economics of it, it seems like you should buy that grader at 5,000 hours and sell it at 10. You're only losing 50 grand in retail.
There's only
Yeah.
$50,000
Yeah, like-
difference, you get 5,000 hours.
Yeah. Like, so our 2014, regardless of what we spent on it, it probably is at its peak resale right now.
Likely.
So do we ride it out as a spare, or do you get the peak money out of it that you can try and pick up a 4,000 or 5,000 hour machine, and once do you roll one of these out a year?
We used to do every 2 years, and then the plan was to do every year and a half for a while. But that was, a lot of that was on the idea of having them always be on warranty.
How many hours do we put a year, do we know? Average?
How many hours on a grader?
Yeah, in 1 year.
1,500 we used to be, but if you look at this 2014, he's only got 1,000 hours a
Yeah,
year.
well, that's why I talked to Chris, and he said about 1,000 hours.
What
Well,
if
it
we-
used to be 1,500 hours roughly a year on the grader, that's what we used to put up.
It's depending how much it snows and.
Yeah.
Mhm. You're right, 1,500. But it hadn't been.
1,500 was about the average.
So how many
And we
graders,
used to replace a grader every 8 years.
how many graders were you running, Terry?
Mhm.
How many graders were you,
Four.
four all the time? Okay.
Yeah.
So with our
Four.
5th grader, we could probably do one every 2 years on that 10,000 hours.
We used to replace the grader every 8 years. Every 2 years, we would buy a brand new grader. I'm not saying that I was in favor of it all the time, but that's what council did in those days. They said, well, it's under warranty. Well, I've never sat down and tried to figure out, but I don't, warranty costs you money, okay? You don't get it for free. So, there's two ways of thinking about this. So like you just said, like you run it till the rubber's all gone and there's nothing left of it. But, or do you trade it off every, when it's got 5,000 hours, get rid of it, well, we got a brand new machine, but even a brand new machine can break down, we found that out. So,
Like if you pace them right, we should be looking at one every 3 years. Would be the way that it looks in here to me.
well, if they're only putting 1,000 hours a year on it.
Yeah. One every 3 years to do 5 in a rotation.
And that's very similar with the one Ralph's operating. It's an 18 and a 24 year old, right? It's got 6,000 hours. We got a 2020 with 3,000 hours, 3,300 hours.
When we've got
19 with 46. So yeah, that's around 1,000 to 1,200 dollars.
yeah, and we've got a 5th machine that if one's getting out of hand on hours, we could rotate the 5th in to offset a bit.
Yeah, but we don't use the 5th grader all the time now, right? So
No.
why wouldn't we stick that 2014 in as a spare? Mind you, the 140 is smaller than the
And the
870.
2014 had a bunch of work done, so.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
The 140 is using more fuel than it should because it's too
It's what?
small. It uses too much fuel.
Which
Oh.
one?
The 140.
But is it not a smaller grader than
It
the
is.
70?
And so the trouble they're having in snow with it is they run it absolutely full throttle and can't go
Oh.
full speed. So they're using
It's good
double
for
the fuel.
summertime grading.
Yeah. And it would be good like around Benito, it'd be good for streets, places, little stuff. But when they take it on the main road with
If we need
drifts,
it in the snowstorm, we got it, even
Yeah.
though we're gonna burn a bit more fuel, right?
yeah, but for every day it's not worth.
Yeah.
I like the one we bought was from a municipality. And if you talk to anyone in construction, they tell you municipal
Oh, yeah.
grader hasn't done a day of work in his life, right?
That's right. They don't
That's
know
the
what
trick is to find
They don't
the
know what
people.
the ditch is, that's
Yeah.
for sure. Oh, the odd time.
Once in a while.
Not planned. You
No.
know, I mean, like they're not building roads, they're
No.
not, they don't really work hard.
I like the used thing just because there's still municipalities out there that just don't blink an eye at writing that $650,000 check every couple of years, and they have 5,000 hour units that they're like, oh, it's got 5,000 hours, we better get rid of it. And boy, those are nice machines.
It barely broke in.
Yeah.
You know, we can get 6-7 years out of that grader.
The only thing I would like to see us change about the used ones, there's a website for MMA, I think, where they post equipment and stuff. I would be interested to know what they got on trade-in value for that one we bought. If we should just be buying it directly from a municipality at 5,000 hours.
You don't want to know.
I know, because it's probably $100,000 different than what we
Yeah.
paid. And like, we could do a lot of repairs for 100,000 if we bought it straight from somebody else. There could be a heck of a deal to be had there from somebody trading off a 5,000 hour grader that we pay them whatever the trade-off was worth. And so we replace the windshield before we use it. Like, there's not
The
much
dealers
to.
are going to get awful upset about that.
Aw.
Like,
Poor little dealers.
hmm?
Poor little dealers.
Well, it's not on Monday, so we.
No, they get to sell all the parts anyway. So,
Well, I don't know what, well, I guess we don't want to keep this going all night, we can discuss this later, but maybe we don't even have to buy a grader this year.
It's possible.
You know, we only got one with 10,000 hours, all the rest are.
And like you say, the one with
And that's
10,000
got a new
hours got a lot
tranny.
of work in it.
Yeah.
It's got a brand new tranny in them and they, for 65 grand.
no,
So we might not even have to buy a grader this year.
it's possible.
'Cause the other one's a 17, so what's that, makes it what, 7 years old.
And we could put money into reserves. We could put half a grader into reserve. Because we put 175 last year into reserve for grader, roughly. So we put about half a grader into reserve last year, put another half in this year, and if in December someone comes along and says, boy, we got a deal for you, we have that option of pulling out
We
the
have to
reserve and
look at
buying it.
What equipment do we maybe need more than we need than a grader, you know what I mean? Like, maybe a dually truck. It doesn't have to be brand new, but a dually with a tri-axle trailer to haul our skid steer and stuff, and it'll haul a lot of other stuff too, but I mean,
Yep.
you know, and then you're not tying up the tandem, you're not, you know, like it's just, its own independent unit then.
Now, was there some thought of that flat deck from Benito, the 3-ton?
See, with the garbage truck in Bonito, we don't really need the 3-ton there. We could take the box off it, put a flat deck on it, and it'll pull the skid steer.
And
around.
haul the skid steer?
Yep. The only thing then that would be nice to buy for the municipality would be maybe a dump trailer. If the garbage truck goes down, if they're hauling greens, if they have a tree to haul, stuff like that.
You know, a dump trailer might be good, you could haul the skid steer in there too, you gotta have the axles under it.
If you got the right one.
You'd have to go pretty heavy for that, but
Would you go into a gooseneck trailer then?
we could go gooseneck to haul the skid steer.
Yeah. And it could be a dump trailer too, the
It
gooseneck.
could be a gooseneck dump trailer.
Yeah.
It could be a multi-use machine. You could still haul the skid steer in there. And it's lower to the ground than a flat deck truck.
Yeah.
If you ever wanna try drive one of them machines up 3 feet in the air when it's icy out, you go ahead, I'll get my camera. Been there. It's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, those options are wide open, but there's, you know,
Yeah.
we've looked at options and the weights and everything that truck and Bonito can do it. So it saves buying a truck, we just have to convert it over to a deck.
Yeah, or have it so it pulls a fifth wheel trailer around.
Well, I think with the deck, you'd put a fifth
Or the
wheel on it.
gooseneck, I mean,
Yeah,
you know, you can put a deck with a ball in there, a
Yeah.
gooseneck ball, and you can haul that trailer
Yep.
wherever you want.
Yeah, that was the plan.
And haul another trailer around. Yeah.
so.
Yeah, well, that would work. Well, I'm just saying, there's things that we maybe. need
Otherwise,
more so than a grader.
I don't
right now.
think we have two uses for two heavy trucks.
No,
is the
no,
problem,
if
so it
that
wouldn't
one
make
would
sense to
work,
buy another.
Brad, and that's what I'm saying, we need like a 1-ton truck to pull all this stuff around. No, we don't need a tandem gravel truck to haul,
Mhm.
11,000 pound machine behind us, right? You know, it's a little overkill.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all I got, that's enough, I've said enough already, as I usually do at most meetings, but.
On the road front, and I don't know what the roads look like, but we have enough gravel stockpiled now that we could go and do something other than just maintenance graveling. We could pick some places, and like we are often 150 yards a mile is basically what we consider normal maintenance gravel in the summer. We could pick some places, and we have some roads that are bad where we could put 500 or 600 yards.
216.
You know, we could do a few miles like that. We could send a grader out there with a packer. We could pack it as it goes on. We could attempt to water it a little bit, you know, and build up a couple inches of gravel again in some of those places that are so poor.
I have a
would be an
question
option.
about the Packers. I know before we talked about it, the greater men didn't want to have nothing to do with it. How's that going now?
So we discussed that at a meeting here, and then one of the greater men got in touch with me to say that he just has no idea why I feel that way. And I said, because you told me. And he said, oh, well, I must not have understood the question. I would love to have a packer.
Oh, okay.
So it seems that they're...
Historically, that's the way it is.
They're coming on to the idea now?
Yeah.
But highways use them all the time.
Oh, I know.
And they got do a lot more work than we do.
And I wish we'd had it in the spring. It'll be interesting to see this spring how it goes. Because we were using it when it was pretty dry already. And it was still doing a good job, but imagine what that packer should be able to do for us when the roads are
Well, every
softer.
time he uses it, it's doing more,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
And they're not horribly expensive. They're not
what
free.
you had one down
30, 40,000.
For 30
The
to
last
40.
one, I think it was like 35 plus the taxes. And it wasn't a huge amount of money for one. So we could add one more. Even if we don't, if we go up to 216, we can send that grader up there with the packer for a week, right? Like, we can move our stuff around and make it work. But
Yeah.
if we want to
Yeah.
always be packing in the north, we could add another one.
But I'm all for trying to buy some other updates of our other equipment here before we get into the graders again.
The mowers are fine?
They're not bad. They were replaced. The 15-foot one is new a couple of years ago.
2, yeah.
And there was a 10-foot new then too.
Yeah.
So there's that 10 that's kind of the spare is older, but it's meant as a spare.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
they
no,
must have,
not that old.
And
How's that
3
Ford
years now,
tractor?
maybe?
How's that Ford tractor?
This would be its 3rd year, I
Okay,
believe.
yeah.
So-
How's that Ford tractor?
it's a tractor. I don't know. I'm a farmer, so like tractors last forever. There certainly has been discussion at this table in the last 4 years of, oh gee, we should replace those tractors. They're getting older. They're tractors. I don't know. When do you replace a tractor? When it won't go no more.
Half the year too, so.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
we've been a little carefuler with them this year than maybe we are some years.
The one in the north end didn't do very much work, so.
Yeah, so
Oh.
we can't replace it.
It did so.
It didn't
up
do
and
enough
down the
work
road.
to replace.
Just didn't have the mower.
The
down.
driving time
It
to
was
get
up and
there
down the
was-
road
yeah.
line, just didn't have the mower down. But anyway, I guess that's enough for another meeting, I guess, a budget meeting or whatever.
Councillor McGregor, what are your thoughts?
I tend to agree with what Councillor Neely's saying about, let's look at some of the other stuff. If we're okay with the graders, let's,
The nice part about the spare, if something really bad happens, we just go get the spare.
Yeah,
We're not down to 3 graders in a panic. We have the 4th grader, we can do something about it.
and
You
you
know.
have the reserve as well, so.
I was gonna say, when I first started, we had 4 machines, 3 full-time, 1 was summer only. So for the winter, 1 was laid up and like put away, and 3 graders kept the roads open. Now we got 5. So,
Progress.
yes,
that's when
Something.
men were men and women were still down glad of it.
yes.
Oh,
So we just pause for a moment and say hi to the people all across the country watching the video now.
No offense, ladies.
Next week, we schedule Terry's apology.
Meant in fun.
Any other discussion you want to have on that tonight? And it's again, it's one of those things, I hate to seem like the teacher that assigns homework, but we need to have some input on this next time we come back, because if we always kick the can down the road, it's going to be June before we have a budget. We got to start settling into some of these choices, and even if we have to change them later, at least get some firm ideas of
We're
what we
gonna
want
have
to do.
like some budget meetings coming up shortly here in the next couple of weeks or something like that,
I
or?
wouldn't say 2 weeks. I'd say probably we'll have another regular meeting first, we probably need to see the town one more time about shared services before we sit down for a budget meeting and see what's happening with a couple things.
I meant like the capital items and stuff.
We could. If we don't, we'll spend a little more time on it again in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But if if you make wish lists, if you think about things, phone each other at night, whatever, you guys all talk anyway. So see what you all are thinking, and we'll kind of firm
Well, I
some
have
stuff
one
up.
road project that I've been trying to get for years, but there never seems to be the money there. And that's that little stretch of road from the cement plant to the corner of 158 and the airport road.
What would you want to do to it?
I
Pave
think
it, I
it needs
assume.
about 8 inches of clay put on it and a new top. It's all sand. And that, believe it or not, other than Road 216 out there, that's likely one of the most traveled little pieces of road in our whole municipality. I live out there, so I see what goes up and down that road lots. And I'm only there once in a while. I don't see the whole day. But you name it, it goes up and down that road. And that's very, very sandy. It's washboard after it's graded. In 1 to 2 days, it's just washboard like this again. Because it's so sandy.
So people don't take the airport road?
Yeah, but they come there, Brian, and then they come from town, past the airport, to get that corner, they go back this way, over towards Major Group.
Skip around
Yeah, and
everything.
it's so busy, but yet it looks like a turkey trail.
And you know where the
Yes.
DOT sits. So lots of stuff, guys are going around that. Not just that, but I mean, it's just, they avoid more traffic uptown, so they come that way.
There was stuff at AMM a couple years ago. I don't know how many of you saw it or didn't. It was a polymer you add to gravel, and it firms it up to the point where it's almost like concrete. And down south, they've used it on some haul roads, and 8 or 10 years later, they still don't have to grade them. They just kind
Are
of,
they dark color? The road
it's
are
darker.
color?
Yeah. I would love to try that someplace. I've always thought of Pioneer, just a
Yeah,
little
Pioneer.
chunk of there. Do just that little piece, right? And see what happens after a couple of years. See if it holds up.
We got it on that road I was speaking of, we gotta cover that sand up,
Yeah.
there is no ditch there basically, it's all blown in with sand over the years, there's no ditch, And when there's a heavy rain, there's a water puddle that sits there in one certain spot for about 100 yards. It just sits, it's got nowhere to go over.
Is there any clay anywhere close here? Probably not easy, eh? Think about it. Because those are the types of things, we need to start doing some road work. Because we haven't for years. We need to go and just pick some spots.
Different
And,
guys on what to do with it, and they said you gotta put a clay cap on it and put a new top on it, you gotta get out of that sand.
yeah.
I mean, I got clay in the bank, but I'm not even gonna mention it because it's.
As long as it's free, we'll be glad to take it from you.
Well, they were gonna use it when they did renovations at the lagoon that time,
Oh.
and they found Nancy's land was
Good enough.
good enough. They didn't have to use it for a liner.
Okay. Anything else in the capital planning? We'll pick it up in a couple weeks' time likely, but think about it, please, so we have some direction. We'll move to 7.1, Benito and Bozeman garbage plans. Oh, so here we go. So we have a resolution, but before we even get to it, let's start the discussion. Since we all met here last, as you know from our text messages and such, the LUD was able to find a garbage truck. Last minute, as these things often happen at the end of the year. So the story of the gravel truck, this garbage truck, is that it came from Gravelburg. And if you can imagine how many times I've called it a gravel truck from Garbageburg,
Wrong time.
it's insane. So Gravelburg's out a little past Moose Jaw, about 5.5 hours from here. And they had a problem in that their landfill was full, and they could not build another one. So they no longer have a landfill as of the end of October, which meant they no longer needed their garbage truck. So they sold us a 2009 garbage truck. They were asking $55,000 for it. We said, well, could you do better if we paid before the end of the year? And they said, oh yes, we could. So they took $10,000 off. So we got it for $45,000. It has about 10,000 hours on it. It's been shedded its entire life. So this week is the first week it's actually seeing snow. Up until now, it's been in a shed when it's not out and about. It's in very good shape. There's a little bit of rust on it. It's not penetrating rust, it's just the paint's off, right where, you know, maybe there could have been mud flaps or something, just where it's coming off the wheels, a little bit of salt. Otherwise, the rest of it's in beautiful condition, and I suspect come summer, I would imagine our guys might just put some white paint on there and cover that up again. It'll look brand new. It seems to work really good, everything's great, and there is a bonus. So they used to run a commercial garbage program in Gravelburg, and the new contractor they've hired cannot lift those dumpsters. So the dumpsters are the style that are used in Swan River, with the posts come out from the side, not the thing goes in them. So they had 27 5-yard dumpsters and 7 3-yard dumpsters that they don't have anything to do with. So they gave them to us as part of the garbage truck deal. The dumpsters sell for about $2,500 each. So you do the math on that, we bought the garbage truck for what the dumpsters are worth. So either they or the garbage truck was completely free. We have a quote tonight to get the dumpsters home because they're still in Gravelburg. So we need to talk about that. The quote that's here is from Eaglemere Logistics, which is a load broker. So they're quoting $18.25 a load and 3 loads of these things to get them here, with the idea being we just deliver them to Durban and put them in the yard there until we figure out what to do with them. So we need to discuss whether we're going to do that or not. They need to come because they're worth a lot of money. We need them. So if we don't do this, we're all going to need to drive down there with a pickup truck and make a lot of trips.
So what do we need to pick these up then?
We need, I talked to my guys.
No, but I mean,
Oh,
to dump them out. Like if
with the
you-
garbage truck.
Our truck will work.
Our garbage
That's
truck
my
is compatible with
question,
them.
yeah.
Yep. It knows them all because it's been emptying them for a few years.
So that will solve a lot of problems at the
Bozeman.
Bozeman.
Well, and so this is part 2.
Okay,
So we want to put a couple of those dumpsters, Benito Health Center, the school, there's a couple places in Benito, heavy commercial users, that this will make a lot of sense. But we're gonna have a lot of dumpsters left. So we could go to Bozeman, and we could put our own dumpsters there. 5-yard ones, we could put 5 or 6 or 7. The truck holds 20 yards of compressed garbage. So you could put 4 dumpsters there, but you'll never fill the truck with that because it's gonna compact it. So if you put more than 4, 5, 6, 7, and went up there once a week and took a full truckload, I suspect it wouldn't be long until we thought, oh, we only need to go every second week. But maybe we'd go every week. When you look at what we pay for what we're doing there now, it would be
Money.
cheaper to do it ourselves. It'll pay for the garbage truck.
Yeah.
If what we were doing now was working good, but it isn't.
It's not.
You know, there's been a lot of complaints about it. There was a big blow up on social media here in the last week or two. Some of you may have seen about what we're providing for service there. Very upset about it. And there was a lot of comments there, and we had a discussion with some of those people too directly. They're not, as per social media, it's not always totally accurate. But, you know, we did take steps last April to try and address those problems, but they weren't resolved. And they haven't been. Our contract ends in the middle of February for what we're doing there now, which is just enough time to get this all lined up to have dumpsters there. The issues, the biggest issues in Bozeman right now is it's too high to put the garbage in. Some people have a hard time getting it into the bin. When they do get it in, it doesn't spread itself out. So it tends to have a pile right against the door and half the bin is empty. So then we're ending up emptying the bin sooner. As a stopgap measure, Dustin's emptying it every week now. But that's just adding to the cost because we're not taking a full bin away. We're just emptying it because it's getting too hard to put the garbage in. Meanwhile, the bin is half empty. The bin that's there is a 21-yard bin. He had been emptying it every 10 days, but even then it wasn't completely full because it was too hard to get it in. So, you know, if we put 20 yards of dumpsters, that's only 4 dumpsters. That's for sure a week worth, except on spring cleanup days. The one person brought 50 bags.
To put the garbage
They
in?
are. They're way lower. You know, I think anyone could reach into a dumpster, whereas they can't get into this other thing. Because it would be, Councillor Burick, you've been there, would the other thing be 3 feet higher to get the garbage in than the dumpster
So I'd
would
say
be?
about 5 feet in total to the top of the thing, 5
Okay,
feet.
so maybe 1.5 feet higher. Like it's, because these are the same, these are identical dumpsters to what you see in Swan River, the blue ones.
I used to go there at 10 o'clock in the morning when the dump was open, and those dumpsters were over half full already. And like when the morning just started, bringing in. People used to phone me and they're just on, very poor, very poor. But hopefully this year, how many are we putting in there?
Whatever we feel like. 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
More than 4.
Well, how much can a truck take to clean,
The truck is a 20-yard truck, but it's 20 yards compressed. So it depends on the day. If someone brings a bunch of really heavy garbage that doesn't compress, it only holds 20 yards. But if it's normal household garbage, probably 40 yards.
20, and what does one dumpster hold?
5.
5, so 20, you're saying 4 dumpsters in.
And we want more than that.
Yeah, put more than that.
Because those dumpsters are volume, what Bill's saying,
Yeah.
our truck can come
Yeah,
back.
come back, yeah. No, that's good.
And we want some spare. Ideally, we never get full, right? We go out there, we load whatever's there, and it's enough for at least the next week. We know that in the springtime, we have seen abnormal use there. So one day somebody brought 50 bags of garbage because they did spring cleanup. And so sometimes that happens. So having that little bit of spare space, you know, when that does happen, we might go out there one week and not empty them all, but we'll take enough that next week we'll get the last of it. I think it would work a lot better. If that's something we're all agreeable to trying at least. If it doesn't work, we can do something else. But I think it would work.
I think it'll work too.
So with that, the conversation goes on to, if we're gonna bring the truck to Bozeman, what do we do with garbage? We could take it to Benito, or we could dump it in Swan and save our Benito pit. Doesn't cost terribly much, and we get half of it back because we're partners on that dump anyway. So it doesn't cost you on paper, it might cost $50, but it takes what we owe on the dump on the other side down a bunch. So it's not horribly expensive to try putting it in Swan.
We're in negotiations on the dump anyway, so.
No.
Yeah, but your
I'd
fuel
say take it
also,
to Swan.
your fuel
Fuel would be
fuel
lower.
driving to Benito.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
not too
and
bad.
Benito was only gonna
I
handle
mean,
so
you're
much.
driving back to Benito anyway, whether it's full or empty, but I mean.
And
like
so,
Bill said, it
Yeah.
would save on Benito dump, don't we?
the question then goes, as you step through one thing after next, do we have an appetite to do something else with garbage? A few years ago, we talked about doing pickup in the Pot and Drive area. If we're in Swan with an empty truck, if we go to Bozeman first thing in the morning, load our dumpsters, dump in Swan, we're now here with an empty truck. Do we want to do anything with it on its way back to Benito? Because we could. Options would be some sort of pickup. If I was king of everybody, I'd put dumpsters out there. But we know what would happen. All the Swanriver people would drive out to save their $9 and fill our dumpsters. So we can't. It's too close to the Swanriver dump to do it. But we could do curbside out there of some sort. The only downside on that is we have to commit to the day, right? We can't be like, oh, when we have time, we'll go to Bozeman. It's gotta be the right day. And then we thought, and we've been, two of us, and Scott, having great discussions. Kenville used to have a landfill. Zbirun used to have a landfill. We get a lot of complaints out of the Kenville area for having to drive all the way to Swan or all the way to Benito. Is Kenville far enough away to put some dumpsters there? We could put them by the curling rink where no one really sees them. The locals could put stuff in the dumpsters. We could pick it up and take it with us. The discussion's also been the same about what a big woody Crestview. Should we do, you know, if we're empty in Swan, do we go that way? We just don't know. The thoughts are, what do you think? What should we do? Because we have the opportunity. We don't have to. We just go back to Benito empty. Or we can provide some service along the way.
The thing is, how do you control what they put in that dump?
The worries with dumpsters, a little bit of what they put in it. Usually it's not going to be too stupid, but when the dumpster gets full
Yeah.
and they leave a pile on the ground. You know, if everybody
But I mean,
was
you only have to
normal,
sort- You have
Don't.
to sort
Yeah.
things at the landfill, right? You have to sort everything.
I think
So-
we would only take household would be the rule, but it could
But I
be
mean, how
abused
do you
too.
know what people are, you know, and all of a sudden our guys.
Even now it's abused. People put all sorts of stuff in a black garbage bag and throw it in household. But
Yeah, I suppose, I
Yeah.
guess, once it's in the garbage.
Yeah, we can't control the Bozeman one now, really.
no,
Like,
it's just
not-
whatever you put in it.
Well, that's something to think about, that's for sure, but let's just get them here first.
So more homework. Think about options. Are we good with the Bozeman thing? We'll work on setting that up.
Yeah.
Can
to get-
we, this is to Durban, can we quote it to take 2 loads to Swan Shop, 1 load to Durban?
Yeah, I suspect it'll be the
Because
same
then we don't
price.
have to haul them that far,
Yeah.
because there's
Yeah.
gonna be 11 or 12 per load.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, that's what we're here for.
What's gonna happen, when it comes time for, you know, to put their budget up, they're gonna say, well, we're picking up garbage in Kenmore, we're picking up garbage here, we're picking up, so it's all going at large. And then that's a bill on us.
What's gonna happen, Mr. LUD?
There's varying viewpoints. I guess it depends how we end. First, I guess we're just focusing on Benito here. If the truck is going to Bozeman, to Kenville, to Durban, the truck would be coming to Benito. Now, one viewpoint is, so it comes there and picks up bins just the same, then what's the difference between there and Bozeman or Durban or Kenville or anywhere else? So if they get door to door, they can pay for the hourly rate to get door to door, right?
Which is essentially what they pay for now. Because we don't charge Benito to use the landfill, that's at large. What Benito pays for is the privilege of driving up and down every street picking up the garbage. So, you know, if we're doing curbside pickup, whoever's getting curbside pickup should be paying something for it. If we're doing depot, I guess is the other word, right? That's what we've always provided at large. If you go to Benito and use our landfill, whatever it costs us to run that landfill is at large. If you go to Bozeman, same thing. But it's different than us coming to your house. You know, if we're going to go to houses, especially though around Swan River, it would be hard not to argue that they should be
There
charged
would be
for
a
that.
fee. Right?
There would have to be. And that's the same thing for Benito. If you're going to houses, we need to charge for the going to houses part. Special to Benito.
Yes, if we do door to door in Kenville, door to door in Durban, door to door in Swan, it's the same thing. On the flip side, though, we should start to quit thinking of that boundary. We just took a 3-ton truck out of Benito that will benefit everybody, and Benito paid for it. There's no issue. Benito paid for the garbage truck to contribute to everybody, knowing this would happen. Just think of one.
My concern would be the life of the truck by driving it more and using it more would be my concern. Because it's a pretty good hike from Benito to Bozeman, you know, for an older truck like that. And it's just a thought.
The town has given some indication they intend to get out of the garbage business in the next year.
The town,
Yes. Which would then have 2 surplus garbage trucks in Swan River. One of which is brand new.
well, what are they gonna have? Everybody's gonna have to go to landfill then, or what?
No, they would probably contract it out.
OSS.
Oh, contracted.
So, you know, there would be opportunity there, maybe. My own view is we pay attention to the world. And if in a couple of years from now somebody else has a used garbage truck, we have a spare. Because a new garbage truck, what were they?
$350,000. It's insane.
For
For that
A new
same
truck.
truck.
A new garbage
New garbage
truck.
a brand new one.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than a grader.
Having said that though, when you look at this one's a 2009, we think it's got another 10 years or more left in it. If you're getting 20 years in a garbage truck for $350,000, it's not actually that bad, right?
The price of a grader.
Because what we're paying for looking after Bozeman would almost pay for that truck over that time. So there's some options.
I've also, and this might be way overstepping any idea that anyone has, but as that truck runs down the highway from Swan River to Benito, if those people were told they had their garbage out on that day, because they don't get a lot of services for their taxes, would it take, how many houses are there? Would it take much to stop at those houses along the way?
All these dumpsters that we got, could the current contractor looking after, can he pick those up? It would be handier, it wouldn't make such a mess of Bozeman.
The contractor looking after Bozeman now?
Yeah.
You wouldn't pick those dumpsters.
But that we're trying to save money here, so, yeah.
You wouldn't be able
And
to-
he's got a big
Makes sense.
overhead boom that lifts that.
You wouldn't be set up for it.
No, that's what I'm asking.
And do we actually have a contract, or just,
Because it seems like that,
can we get out of that contract?
It's good till about February 15th.
February, oh, well, that's good, so,
because it seems like the 20-yard
because you still, yeah.
dumpster is the problem, it's too high, people can't reach it or whatever.
And we did explore, like to be fair, we kind of explored that in April, that this is a problem, this needs to be fixed, we need to do something. It kind of fell on deaf ears. until about a week and a half ago when there was a new garbage truck and a bunch of dumpsters on the way. And suddenly, we could build a new dumpster, we could fix the door, we could do all sorts of things.
Huh.
So there's been some offers come in for, oh, we could fix this so we can keep doing it. But it has been a year of not fixing it.
The other dumpsters are real good, the one that Thomas has, that thing's about 12 feet high, and it's got 3-4 big doors, it's big, lots of room. But this one here is small.
So we do have a resolution.
Yep.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West do hereby accept the quotas received for pickup and delivery of the dumpsters from the town of Gravelbourg, Saskatchewan, as part of the purchase of the compactor truck. Is the remover. Councillor Blosha, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Kushniryk. I will note, I did ask my folks to figure out what they wanted for this, not with the intention of buying it, sanity check this. Their thought was $2,000 a load instead of the $1,825, but they were going to do it with Super Bs and try and do it in 2 loads and have a couple left over to pick up as just general freight on the 3rd load. So they would have been a touch cheaper than this overall, but this is in the ballpark.
This 3 loads is less than what 3 dumpsters itself would cost.
It's
Correct?
about, well, that's per load. So it's about the price of a dumpster for each load.
Yeah, that's what I meant, so really,
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Buying
Get 'em
3
here.
dumpsters.
I didn't check the
And get
price of the
34.
dumpsters lately. Many years ago, they were $1,500 before everything went up. So I'm sure they're in that $2,500 range now if you want to buy one. These are used. The paint's a little beat up, but they're still dumpsters.
So again, how many are we getting? 20,
34.
34?
27 5 yards, 7 3 yards.
And they're not all going to Boulder.
Yeah.
Those 3 yards would probably be the ones to dump.
Just so you know.
Just like everything else. Nothing goes
30.
the big ones.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.
That's good.
It's not in that resolution, but we will start staff working on the postman thing.
How come 83 North didn't put a bid in there?
Because I prefer not to have to leave the meeting and leave you in charge.
You just explained it.
Things go really strange then. So if somebody else will do it, that's
I'm
better.
not giving you any play.
Am I the only one dying of heat in here?
No, it's perfect now.
I mean, it's pretty hot if she likes it. 7
Go
2.
outside for smoke.
Supplementary taxes. Be it resolved, the supplementary taxes as presented be approved and added to the respective tax rolls as per the assessment updates. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. A list of these are attached. The 2022 ones are fairly vanilla. In fact, it results in a loss of $14,414.95 for 2022. All of that loss relates to an elevator being torn down. However, in the 2023 year, there was a new elevator built. So the end result for the 2023 year is an addition to rolls of $252,989.95. And let me be the first to thank James Richardson International for building an elevator in our municipality. We will always be grateful.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Why, we might even have to go and give them a little bit of extra
That,
dust
that,
control.
change, that changes depending on their business, doesn't it?
It
Is that
does.
like a bar, like a hotel? Is that-
Yeah, the assessment on grain elevators has to do with the volume.
Yeah,
So it's basically the receipts that go through it. Same as
as a bar or something. That's
bars,
what a bar
really
is.
big grocery stores, a lot of those things are assessed at what they do, not what they are. So it could change. If you were here a few
Price of
years
grain
back,
goes up.
they actually appeared or tried to appear at one of our Board of Revision hearings to complain about the assessment on the old elevator. And at that time, they said because it was a ladder track, it wasn't worth much. The new one is a loop track. So this is the best elevator you can build and the best track you can build. So it's not a surprise the assessment's really high because their argument was any of their ladder track facilities should be devalued and their loop track facilities should be worth more. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Those, I believe, are in the process of going out if they aren't already, so we'll be seeing those payments shortly. 7.3, Economic Development Training. So I don't know exactly what everyone's thoughts are. I want to go, but Community Edge, they're the CED certification program, has been working their way through the province, trying to train municipal councillors and senior staff on the idea of how economic development works. Typically, this is around $1,000 to take this training, but they've got some grants, and the way they're doing it, it's $100, which includes lunch. So it's a really good deal. The closest the training is coming to us will be Dauphin, February 29th and March 1st. They've been kind of working their way through southern Manitoba, now they're up here. From what I understand, there will not be a Swan River date for this. Dauphin is as close as it gets. So the question is if anybody else is interested in going. It's 2 days, and it starts at 8:30 in the morning, ends at 5 p.m. So I suspect you'll be staying overnight in Dauphin, possibly twice, unless you really like driving early morning. For sure once you're staying over. And then we would be covering the lunch, and as council members you get your whatever you settle on when we pass the indemnity thing.
Rooms are cheaper than the mileage.
It is, because you'd be 68 cents times by 400 kilometers. Yeah, the room's cheaper. So, is anybody else interested? I would like permission to go, but anybody else could join me. Councillor Blosha here is retired now. She might be interested.
Yeah, like I actually might be interested in that.
Okay. The deadline to register
and
is
the
not till
Dauphin one is-
February, so we've got a couple
Yeah,
weeks if
so
you
let
want to
me-
think about it.
Yeah, no, actually, I think I might be interested in that.
Okay. Does anybody else have any interest? So what I would propose we do is pass the resolution tonight with our 2 names in it. If Councillor Blosha decides not to go, we just won't register her. And then we don't have to come
You
back
said
to it
until
again.
February, so.
February 19th
Oh,
is the
yeah, well,
deadline.
that's good.
So there's lots of time to figure it out.
Yeah, Dolphin's not that far. What is 29th?
9th is Thursday.
Yeah, it's Thursday, Friday.
That's
Okay.
league day.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
this
my,
day doesn't happen very often.
it's my sister's anniversary.
It's what?
My sister's anniversary.
I
She
thought
only
you
has
said
one on
your
every,
anniversary, you were gonna wait for your
she
anniversary.
only gets one once in a while.
You know, people that are born on February 29th live 4 times longer than everybody else.
That's right.
Be it resolved that we do hereby approve council member attendance for Reeve, Gade, and Councillor Blosha to the Economic Development Training Course being offered by the Economic Developers Association of Manitoba. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, someone to second the resolution? Councillor McGregor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 7.4, Animal Control December report. A reminder we need to do November yet, because it hasn't yet breezed through. Remember we forgot it last time, and then I forgot it the second time. So it'll come at some point. If we get really into it, we might do it after in camera, just to get it done. Be it resolved, the Animal Control Officer's report for December be received as, or in payment, be received as presented and payment be approved. There we go. This is a very famous report already. It's been making its way around Facebook this afternoon, but for good reasons, I hope.
He scared somebody into shutting their dog up anyway.
Yeah. Is there a mover for the report? Councillor Blosha, anyone to second this? Councillor Neely. So the report is attached there. Complaints about dogs barking. Hasn't had further complaints. Rebaited and reset traps. Almost took a dog, but found its home and just gave out a warning. So things look good. What was the amount for animal control that was for the other municipality?
57.20.
Yeah, we're 257.20. The other one was what, 16?
1521.50, I think.
Yeah, so the other municipality was $1,521 for 1 month of animal control, which was 6 hours.
Who was that?
Our municipality to the east. So this one was for 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So they got 6 hours for 1,500. We got 3.5 hours for 257. So I think we're doing very well.
I think I'm gonna go into animal control business. Well, I already am.
And you want to be a CAO, that pays better.
Mine don't go to the
The
farm.
way you're talking right now, we're not hiring. Just so you know.
Any further discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is passed. Border Road Agreement, Arm of Livingston. Now, this is mostly discussion tonight. Question has come up about the border road, and some of you Senior council members will have more information on this. The agreement appears to say that per calendar year we switch back and forth. So at the end of December, we would stop grading and they would start grading. Livingston says that's not so, that we actually switch following the winter season. So when the snow is gone, we make the switch to who's next. Does anyone have any recollection of how this is supposed to work?
I've never been on the border road until we changed the words.
And the second part, it's expired.
Yeah, 2023.
So we need to come up with a new one.
So we're doing it now, is that right? I think I read that.
Our thought was we were doing it till the end of December. The question came up as the snow started to fall this week. They feel we're doing it now. We feel they were doing it. So we're plowing it right now, so it does get plowed.
So we're gonna have a meeting with them, or what are we gonna do?
We can have a meeting. We can just tell them we want to renew it. I guess the question is, what do you think of the agreement? Is there anything we want to change?
Well, I think something's gotta be changed. Huh? So everybody's on the same page, wouldn't you think?
When I spoke to the administrator of Livingston, sounded like they were going to clarify things so that it said seasonally, whereas here it very clearly says from January 1st, 16 to December 31st, 23.
Do they
And-
intend to send us a new one?
They are having a meeting tomorrow night, at which point it will be discussed.
Let's see if they send us a new one for next meeting for our
Well, it
discussion.
doesn't matter as long as everybody knows,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know.
and it's in agreement with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have their CAO talk to our CAO,
Okay.
and somebody will write something up, and it'll come back here for approval.
Yeah.
It's always nice when we can send the CAOs to have a visit.
Yeah.
7.6, the ERA service agreement draft. So we wanted some revisions to it. It's revised with one glaring issue. It doesn't say how much.
No, it doesn't.
And our
It
understanding is it's supposed to be 0, but there's no 0 in the line.
Yeah, and at the end it says, yeah, I went over it again.
So we will send it back
Yeah, I want to see
with
a
another
dollar
thing of,
amount.
it needs to put a real
That was
amount
gonna be
there.
my question, because I thought we said it was no charge to us.
Yeah, but
and
that's not what
it
this
didn't-
says.
It doesn't say that here.
No, it's
Just
not, you
left
just sign
blank, eh?
something and then be
No
in
charge
trouble.
for what?
For
That
two
rubber aggregate. Everything, well, the way he talked, it was everything was free, but this contract does not say
Say
that.
that.
It doesn't
This
say how
contract
much. It
says
just
there's
it says
an amount
a price.
Yeah.
It
that
doesn't
we're
say
gonna
what it
owe.
is.
Yeah, sign it and they'll fill in the number
Just sign it
later.
and they'll fill the
I
number
think
in,
so.
yeah, it's not good.
So we will talk to Mr. Peter again, have our CAO talk to him, and he will, before such time as we're willing to consider it, he will fill in that blank with what it's actually going to cost, if anything, or a 0 is fine, we
Yeah,
prefer a
yeah.
0, but it needs to be in there,
Yeah.
so it's clear.
Because he said that when he's here, it was 0, right?
Absolutely, yeah. He's, twice he's told me it's 0,
Yeah.
but it's still not showing in the agreement, so, until then we just can't help him.
Get that clarified.
So you're happy with everything else in the agreement?
I think so. It looks clear enough. We just need to clarify. And there's 2 places in the agreement it talks about the cost.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be figured out. Anything else on that? Not, we'll go to 7.7. As you know, our gravel hauling. Now, we don't have to issue a tender. Technically speaking, last year was year 1 of the tender. We can renew it. The general feeling has been we're going to tender. So unless somebody wants to argue that we're not going to tender, I think generally we're agreed that we're going to tender out hauling again this year.
Well, last year we did it by government rates, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we gotta tender it.
We gotta tell
And in the end, how did that turn out?
I think it was pretty expensive, not?
It was expensive, and it was less responsive than we'd hoped.
Yes.
It started out really good. We started hauling earlier than we thought we would, hauled for a while, and then just kind of disappeared for a while. And then, you know, we didn't get the last of that gravel on until September. That was just too late. It's got to be on sooner than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
You know, it needs to be there by the end of July. Ideally sooner if it could be. So it wasn't horrible, but we can imagine there could be better.
but cost-wise, compared to previous years where it was tendered, how did it?
So there's a couple things at play there. It was last tendered out 3 years ago, the other way.
Oh, well, then that's hard.
So it's, there's so much that's changed.
Yeah.
It was certainly more expensive than that 3-year-old tender was, guaranteed. But fuel went up, everything went up. I know. So attached here is a draft gravel hauling tender. It's not attached publicly because we were trying not to have the accidentally wrong version found and the wrong people apply on the wrong thing. So you'll see this doesn't have dates or anything, but it does have, this is totally revised. So it kind of provides some background here. It says that we seek tenders from qualified individuals and companies. Generally, we haul 40,000 cubic yards per season applied to our road network. In 23, we changed it to price per hour instead of price per loaded mile. You must follow that format. In 24, we're now tendering the hauling as portions of the total instead of requiring a company to complete the application. The reason for that change, we heard from a couple different contractors that they could do half of it, but they couldn't do the whole thing. So we get more competition and more chance for the money to stay local if we do it in 2 pieces. Now that isn't to say if someone wants to do the whole thing, they can bid the whole thing too. And we can take a bid from somebody for the whole thing, but we could conceivably have somebody do the north and someone do the south and split it up a bit.
They could be doing it at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if they each had 3 trucks, we could have 6 trucks doing it
Yeah.
all at the same time. This suggests, and this is new for us, some of these things. Our tenders haven't had this before. So we're suggesting that if you're interested, you register ahead of time. If you have questions, they have to be in writing. We respond to those questions so everybody gets a copy. So everybody's on the same page as far as what's going. This is pretty common for government tenders. It's just not how we've done it. But it's just that change to make it a little more transparent. Questions have to be here no more than 3 days before the deadline, so there's time to respond to it. And essentially it ends that call up and talk to somebody and get some inside information. If you want to know, you send it in writing, everybody gets the same answer. Tender opening says that it will be opened at a public location, which I'm sure will be here. You can attend if you want, you don't have to attend, but we've had questions in the past to contractors that wish to come and watch them opened. That's fine. Subsequent to that, we will then select a tender and offer a contract. It's got some terms here, and some of this we need to discuss. Some of it's straightforward, like number 1, you must have proof of workers' comp, insurance, etc. Number 2, though, becomes more of a discussion. It says in here, proposed is that each vehicle you're transporting the aggregate in must have GPS monitoring, so that we can tell the hours it's used and see where it goes. We had intended to do that this year, but we didn't. We didn't have a gravel checker this year. And not having GPS and not having a gravel checker really doesn't meet our fiduciary duty here to ensure that we do some sort of check that people aren't saying they're applying gravel when they aren't. We have no reason to believe that happened in the last year. But our job is to make sure we can accurately say it didn't happen, and at this point we have to assume it didn't. We can't say specifically these 4 days were checked and it was legit. So something needs to change. If it's not GPS, we've got to have somebody out there following trucks. We have to do something so we can satisfy our taxpayers that we actually made sure it happened. So GPS is an option for that. There has been suggestions that GPS might not be agreeable to some contractors, and we might have people say, I'm not having GPS on my truck. So we need to discuss as a group what the thought is. The best we could meet halfway is that we would say it has to be in your truck when you're hauling for us, but you can unplug it the rest of the time. We don't care where your truck goes if it's not working for us that day, but it has to be plugged in and working while you're working for us. Or we could say no GPS.
If they don't want the GPS, could we throw something in the tender that they pay for a gravel checker?
Could.
Yeah. You know, if you're GPS or gravel checker, I mean,
We could. The tender suggests that we'll provide you up to 3 GPS units. Originally, when this was written, it said you had to pay us for them. It's $360 a year. Well, gravel checkers are way more than that, and it makes us look cheap if we're going to take $360 off you. So now it says the first 3 are free, but if you're going to haul with 8 trucks, you pay for anything over 3. Because we think 3 trucks each is lots, right? But what's the fun on GPS?
I think there's nothing wrong with it. You're gonna do your job.
Well, it
What
shouldn't
are
be a
you, what are
problem
you
if
afraid
you-
of if you're gonna do your job?
If you got nothing to hide, you shouldn't be scared.
Exactly.
Okay?
I don't think that would be a problem. I think it's a good idea.
we have some roads that they gravel a bit and they stop and they gravel more. Is that GPS gonna take that out of there, or do you need a gravel checker to?
The GPS isn't always going to show us for sure. what it's good at showing on the grader, you can tell if we're grading or if we're not by the speed it's going at the
Yeah,
time.
Yeah,
The gravel trucks travel a certain speed as they apply, so you would probably be able to see, in this part they were going that speed, then they sped up and we're gone. It wouldn't be accurate. Like if they missed 200 feet, it's not going to show that.
yeah, okay.
It's going to show how many trucks went to that mile and how many trucks were slower on that mile. But you know, if they put two loads over top of each other and none in the next section, it's
never
not going to
tell.
be.
Yeah.
No. You can get them so that they can sense if the trailer's open or closed, but we pay more.
Yeah.
But it could be done. So, you know, we knew what that trailer was doing right then. Is there anyone that thinks we should do that option of, if you don't want GPS, do something else?
Checker.
Is that something we should put in there?
Yeah, you might want to add it just in
Okay.
case.
And the idea would be that they pay for the checker then?
Yes,
If they don't take our GPS,
yeah.
what would we want to randomly select a few days? Or are we saying they have to pay for a full-time checker, or what are we thinking?
Yeah, 'cause they might haul for 2 days and then not haul for a day and then haul.
And the reason we haven't had a checker the last couple of years, we couldn't find anybody.
Well, you can't
It wasn't that we're like, oh no, we're not having a checker. It's like you ask everybody that's a likely suspect.
Yeah,
And
you got 2 units, one south, one north.
Mhm.
How does the checker check everybody? He can't be.
No. We are blessed this year, hopefully, with a little more staff than we had last year.
Yeah.
So we could take someone from Public Works and send them out gravel checking for a day. Not a solution for the whole season,
No.
but if we're spot checking, we could spot check a day every couple of weeks just to see and not tell them about it ahead. The GPS would be the easiest, because the
Yeah.
GPS, we can give somebody in the office the task of looking every morning and just roughly, you know, when did the truck start, when did it end, make sure it lines up.
I don't see how they wouldn't take the GPS.
Yeah.
People that bid on those jobs are
Okay?
they're on.
This says work must begin as soon as possible, typically after weight restrictions. It suggests gravel has to be done by the end of August.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
It's not like
It suggests a 10% holdback for all of it until it's all applied. And if you're not done by the end of August and you don't have permission from us because something weird happened, you lose the 10% over it. Our previous contracts have penalties in them. We've never applied them. For example, our current crushing contract that just ended had a $300 a day penalty for not being done crushing by the end of October. As you know, we're still finishing. But we've never applied the penalty.
20,000 over.
So we're trying to, like, we have to have a penalty that's workable, that we're serious about, or why put it in there? If we're at the end of it going to say, oh, well, they really need that 10%, let's give it to them anyway, even though they got done in October, there's no point putting it here. We have to be serious about what these things say. Because if they don't do it, we're going to take the 10% away. So that's what's suggested. Thoughts on that? Is 10% good? Is that too hard of a penalty if you miss it? My thinking was,
But it said-
if it's, yeah, we could give you
You're
permission.
gonna give them an
Yeah.
extension.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
asked if it was a wet year or something, you're gonna
Something.
give the
Yeah,
extension.
there's-
So no, I don't think that's unfair.
Okay.
Or the guy blows a motor in one truck.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like,
It's,
I
if,
mean.
they're gonna talk to you if they need an extension,
That's
you're gonna say
somewhat
yay or nay.
realistic.
Yeah, if they didn't do anything for 2 months
If
and
they
it was
didn't.
nice weather, we're gonna say, no.
Yes,
Yeah,
If
exactly.
he's just sitting in the coffee shop and not doing it, now it's a different story.
Right. It says we may randomly scale loads to ensure the volume. So the idea would be, again, we pick out a load one day, say, hey, great, you're loaded, let's go and weigh that before we go apply it someplace, which is going to cost us money, but we should a couple times a year just go check what's in a trailer, right?
Yeah, Scott could do that,
Absolutely.
for sure.
It says invoices must include the date and road where it's supplied, which is what we did this last year, but again, this time we would double check that with the GPS, and it says right here, we're gonna make sure those invoices look accurate. A separate price may be bid for an end-up tandem work. So the thought was we sometimes have times we need that, so let's put it in here. We may find contractors that can offer that service, and perhaps it's better than rack rate. 10 is kind of complex, and I don't know if we need it or not. So the idea is everyone's going to bid these belly dumps that hold 20 yards. But what if somebody doesn't? Well, their hourly might be $10 an hour cheaper, but if they're only hauling 10 yards,
Yeah.
That's a
And
bad
make
deal.
twice- Yeah, make twice the trips.
so it kind of says, you know, for example, if you haul 10 yards, you have to tell us it only hauls that. We're going to compare you based on you should have hauled 20, so we're going to double your, you know.
Yeah, I would leave that in there. actually.
Then we get to the tender areas. So I split this on Road 208 North. That's Thunder Hill Road. That's usually where we split north and south.
Oh, that's a highway, so they won't be doing it anyway. I was gonna ask who does 208.
Yeah. There's a little bit of
That's
it
highways.
far out, but yeah, most of it
Good
is.
place.
Yeah. This says 20,000 yards expected for north and for south, but only 15 guaranteed. So, you know, if whatever happens, we'll make sure you haul 15, but if for some reason it's not 20, and again, it says additional yards may be available. But if we come to you and say, okay, so you're supposed to haul 20, but we want 40 done, we're going to have to be flexible on the date. It only makes sense. Then it's got the actual bid form here. And again, it says you can bid on either area or both. If it's under 20 yards, you must tell us. And then ask for hourly rate for the 20 yards, hourly rate for tandem, the cost per yard of loading, any special conditions. Again, says the GPS thing, it says you get 3 for free. Sign it and send it in. Does that look fairly good?
I think so.
Okay.
Should we specify that most of the north gravel will go towards 4 and 5?
I was just looking at that, I was looking where the piles were, and the piles were quite a ways to the south end.
Because most of the gravel went, no.
Yeah.
6 this year.
Oh, yeah. most
We
of
could
it.
adjust that area 2 down to only 5,000 yards for the year. We wouldn't tease you if we didn't like you.
No, I know.
Hey, the brush cutter's on its way, Brian.
We're not, you're not getting it.
Brush cutter will be there in the
They
spring.
made a desert down in Alpine already, so they're headed our
We'll
way.
leave that for in camera.
This particular agreement hasn't been fully sanity checked, so we'll bounce that around the office just to sanity check a bit more. But if we're all generally agreeable, assuming that no one finds anything weird in it, we will get it ready to issue. Do we bring a resolution to issue a tender, or do we just issue it and deal with it after it comes back?
Usually the resolution is when you open the tenders.
So if everyone's agreeable, when staff have this ready, we're gonna let her sail.
Yeah.
Let's start getting some quotes.
now, we
Yep.
got-
Get it out. Get it out there.
These guys got time this time of year usually, but especially there's no snow this year.
It
So
is
far.
our best of intentions to be back here in 2 weeks with the gravel crushing tender, to get it ready and send it out as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
We get this out.
Anything else on 7.7? Hearing not, we'll go to 7.8, the security contract for the Swan River office. Some of this may have to go in camera. The issue is, it's now been more than a month that staff have been calling the contractor, begging them to come over here to update the codes, because we now have 2 staff members that can't get into the office because they have no security codes. So they're sharing right now so they can get in, but that's not good practice. Everybody needs their own code so we can take the code away if that comes to that. The concern is with over a month wait. This is insane. So the question is, are we ready to cancel the contract and move on? Because it's nuts. If you want a bunch of discussion, we should take her in camera.
I think so.
Okay, so we'll send it in camera. 7.9, disaster workshop. I just put this on here, it came today. It's from Eco West in partnership with EMO. So it's a workshop on trying to be ready for disasters and what could go on. So one day thing, what caught my interest is it was suggesting councillors, it was suggesting CAOs, but it was also suggesting public works. And I was just curious if this is the type of thing we would consider for Scott. I don't know if any of us need the training in it, but should we train someone in public works on what to do? My thought was, it may be down the road, save us money if we fully understand how disaster financial assistance works. And having someone in public works getting the concept of keeping track of the job sites and the charges so we could submit a bill to the government.
Do they still have that? I thought they discontinued that
They
program.
do still have it.
And February 20th, it's close to home.
No. It's not too terribly far.
Right, that's by Dolphin, is that correct?
Elkhorn, yes, Clinic.
Yeah.
No. So I haven't talked to Scott about this. I don't know if he's interested. I decided to run it here saying, what do you guys think? Should we do something about this? It is it's well more than a meeting away. So we can think about it and come back in 2 weeks. By then I'll have a chance to ask Scott if he's interested or not
Yeah,
too.
we can ask him on Thursday.
So, think about it. If there's anyone from council that wants to do it, council could too. I'm not interested, but if any of you folks are, you can always speak now.
Well, it's free.
Well, except for all the costs. But otherwise, yeah, there's just the travel and time. But, you know, Scott has lots of room in that truck for 2 people to go. It's not going to cost any extra for the second person much. Okay, anything else on 7.9? Now we'll go to 8.1. An email is attached that was sent to some of us, but not all. So here's your chance. This went to the Reeve here, the Reeve of Manitoba's Bozeman, a few councillors from both municipalities. So we spoke here a meeting ago about whether or not we were a global council and a global mayor. And the email pertains to that. At the time I said we were not. The email points out that we most definitely are, gives a bunch of reasons. So I corresponded with the writer a little bit here. There's not a lot more I can say there. I am committed that when they send in concerns, they live in our municipality, they pay taxes here, we are their representatives, we should read the concerns. So make sure you give it a read, understand what the concerns are. I would hope that none of you are here to do what it suggests in the email. And I haven't seen any evidence that you are, but boy, if you start acting funny, we're gonna have a talk. So, if there's
Define funny. No.
you know, if you start saying Mr. Gates said, and then telling us what we
Okay,
have to pass. I tried to explain some of the municipal act and stuff. I don't know if it was falling on deaf ears or not. We kind of, after some emails back and forth, I think in the end we agreed to disagree. So, but I gave it my best shot because no matter what your opinion is, you should be heard. Anything further on that? We'll go to, well, we won't go to unfinished business. There's nothing in there tonight. We'll go to committee reports. So let's, I don't know, I always have to pick who's first. Let's start with Councillor Burick.
I had nothing,
That's boring.
very quiet.
Very good. Councillor Blosha.
I had nothing either. It's not boring. It's Christmas.
Councillor Kushniryk.
I had the shared services, but it's going in camera, so that's it.
Councillor McGregor.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Neely.
Nothing.
Councillor Zbirun.
Shared service.
It was a good time.
It was.
Yes. We'll fill you all in camera. Unfortunately, it's a negotiation in progress, so we can't discuss shared services in the open tonight. But the moment we can, we will. Does the CAO have anything to report?
No, not really.
All right.
Except that I'm very happy to have our finance officer. Today was day 5. And so, needless to say, there's a learning curve and getting used to everything. So, but it's really exciting to have somebody in that chair and starting to do that work. And I think she's going to be a wonderful fit.
And we say we have another lady in the office too.
She is in 3 half days a week, and she's been very helpful as well. And again, she's had a bit of a learning curve, but she's catching on and being very helpful and willing to do anything that she's asked. So that's very appreciative too, and she fits in well.
Well, it's good to get our staff back up to work, should be.
Absolutely.
So I have a few things to report.
Pass popcorn. Pass popcorn.
So no particular order. We'll start in Benito tonight. Yesterday, the personal care home hospital noted that this pressure on their sprinkler system was abnormally low compared to what we normally provide. Typically, we provide 70 psi to the distribution system in Benito. Yesterday, it was 60 psi. This morning, it was 50. We've held at 50 psi all day. However, something's wrong, and we don't know what yet. Possible options are water main break. However, we don't see yet excess flow into distribution, which we would normally see. You know, if a line was broken someplace, we'd start to notice water missing. We haven't yet, but we're looking at it. We were checking the reservoir today on the advice of Contact to see if there was perhaps a failure in the piping in the reservoir from that pump. Could be leaking or something. So we're looking for swirling in the water, anything to indicate turbulence that shouldn't be there. I haven't heard the outcome of that yet. It was late in the day. I just don't know. Contec was coming anyway at some point because there's a pipe that needs to be replaced that's been leaking for a year or two, which is going to be resolved. So we've discussed with them speeding that visit up, because unless we start to see evidence it's a water main break, it could be a pump failure starting. So they've asked for the electrical contractor to do an amperage test on the pump. That'll be done in the next day or so. If the pump is failing and it goes bad, we have other pumps. We've got 2 other pumps that sit there that function, that used to feed all of the water in Benito. They were never removed when this new one was put in. So that's available. We have the emergency pump as well as available. So there's no suggestion that this is going down the path of no water, but it needs to be resolved.
Where is the pump? Is it in the water?
It's in the reservoir.
Are we relying solely on the hospital gauge?
No, our own gauges are showing it as well. They flagged it first in the afternoon.
Yeah.
They said, hey, your pressure went down this afternoon. How come? And so that's when we started looking, because from what I understand, the pressure had been fine in the morning, but something happened during the day. So, and it could well be a water main break yet. We just don't know, but they're looking into it with making sure we solve it. Next, let's talk about the phone system. We've received a couple more complaints. I thought we had it fixed so it had the proper names of council, and it's sometimes of the day it does, and it's sometimes the day it doesn't. We're also having troubles with the voicemail. So very shortly we're going to delete it. We're going to do it from scratch, so there's no possibility of the wrong council names in there. We will set up the voicemail again. We will get everyone new passwords that work, and we'll get the phone system back on track. But it's going to be a few days yet, but that'll get done here shortly. We did have a shared services meeting, as we alluded to a bit earlier. 3 of us, Councillor Kushniryk, Councillor Zbirun, and myself met with the town. They had their 3 reps there as well. Our CAO attended. What we can share publicly is that we did provide notice of termination on our purchase services agreement. We did that last year, so that comes up towards the end of January. That agreement expires now. It's fully our intention to negotiate a new agreement, as is theirs. We had hoped that would be done by the end of January. Unfortunately, a couple months elapsed before they were available for a meeting. So we have met once now, but we need to have at least a couple more meetings with them. The agreement will lapse in the meantime. I believe the thought is it will go on and we'll negotiate. We're not expecting a stoppage of services in any way. We're friendly, we're going to get through this, but we are going to negotiate. It was good to see them out. They asked specifically that we not discuss those negotiations in public, because it's certainly not just a couple words to change yet. There's some outstanding issues that are fairly large to resolve, but everyone believes they will be resolved, so we'll get through that. Library board meets tomorrow night for budget meeting. They will have a budget at the end of tomorrow night. The books be willing, which will have them on time to have it done by the end of January like they're required to do. Then it'll actually be here. At the moment, it's looking like the budget will not require any substantial increases to run the library. Those days seem to be over. It looks like it's going to be fairly smooth sailing. We'll see what comes of the meeting, but at the moment, the draft budget that was circulated is within $1,500 of being balanced already. So there's a good chance it's going to turn out quite well there. Councillor Zbirun?
Do we have a head librarian yet? Or
They do not.
is that going to be in the budget?
The budget does contain a head librarian. I can't remember if it's 20 or 30 hours a week. I think it's 30 hours a week for a head librarian. But it's in there with an increased pay rate. They advertised for head librarian around that 21 mark, and there was nobody compatible with the job applied. So looking at raising that up a few dollars an hour and then trying again. The realization, I think everybody is clear that they need one. There's no one at the board at this point saying, oh, no, let's save some money. Everybody's saying we must hire. So they will have one hopefully soon. Soon is probably not till February though, the earliest. Fire board, we discussed the other night after shared services. I think it might be new to hear. In the next week or so, there is a community coming to look at the old fire truck. And they're bringing a check with them from what I understand. So they're going to come and look. So there's a heads up to fire boards. There may be a fairly short fuse meeting called for, if they're here with a check and willing to buy it, at least a phone meeting or something to say, hey, this is the offer. Are we willing to do this? So that'll, more details later this week, early next week likely, for what's happening with that. But otherwise, fire board setup continues. Incorporation will hopefully be done this week, because it certainly is dragging on with the government getting it all done. Once incorporation's done, we'll get the bank account going. That'll all be fine. On the finance front, an interesting thing, we started doing bank reconciliations, and we have, as you know, always seen an Excel file here that is a handmade bank reconciliation. Apparently Munisoft can do that. So it has a full reconciliation module in it, which we didn't purchase, and it costs $800. So we're going to buy it because it's going to save us an awful lot of time. The difference will be just click, 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 click on the screen rather than typing everything out again for the month, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So chances are it'll save way more than it costs. So they're going to work on that here in the next few days to get Munisoft to install it, and so we can use it and then catch up all the bank reconciliations from last year that aren't done yet, which is about 6 months roughly that we have to do. So we'll get that done. Any other questions on any of the other variety of things that are ongoing around here that I might know something about and I forgot to tell you? With nothing there, we're going in camera next. Lately we've been kind of previewing that, so we will be talking shared services a lot. There's an invoice there that unfortunately we simply can't tell you what's going on with that publicly, but council will look at that and look for resolution. And we have some HR matters to discuss as per normal, which we can't share much here, but certainly we will have some time in camera. It's not going to be too short tonight. Is there anything else before we adjourn? Hearing nothing, we'll adjourn the meeting for about 10 minutes or so. Everyone can have a chance to go have a break. We will meet back here and we will immediately go in camera. We'll go to 11.1. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523, the Municipal Act Council shall meet as a committee of the whole to close the meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, preliminary discussions, unresolved legal matters, and security of armed documents and property. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick and Councillor Neely. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. And welcome back to the meeting. We'll go to section 11.4 on our agenda, resolutions arising from in camera. Does anyone have anything to bring forward? I will update that the previous matter on security contract we sent to in camera, we have given direction to staff on that, and they will proceed on. Number 12, notice of motion. Does anyone have a notice today? Hearing nothing, we'll go to 13 for adjournment. Be it resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at 10:39 p.m. Be it further resolved, the next meeting is Tuesday, January, must be the 23rd. 23rd, 2024 at 7 p.m.
I think those guys are in favor.
Is it Blosha first, then Neely? Okay, Blosha, then Neely. Those in favor? That too is carried. I'm sorry my computer's slow.